Regardless of the reason for your visit here, if it's tourism, study, or even business, relax and immerse yourself in the culture of Maringá. You can watch the video until the end. However, if you prefer, you can watch it in parts. Your smartphone will function as an audio and video tour of Maringá. The idea of using this guide is to assist you during your stay in the city. You can go up to the touristic point you desire, open this video on your smartphone, and listen to everything right at the spot. Your smartphone will be your virtual guide throughout the city. Grab your smartphone and let's go around Maringá to learn about its history. Welcome to the Singing City. We will talk about the unique characteristics of the city are countless, and they stand out when explored in the light of the historical, economic, and cultural framework of this magnificent city. The northern region of Paraná remained only lightly explored until the early 20th century. When people used to hear about Paraná, the first thing that came to their minds was about the river with the identical name, the River Paraná. The area south of the city of Presidente Prudente in the state of São Paulo was considered wild by the immigrants who ventured through the region. This land resembled the classical western United States with pioneers, explorers, dangers, and countless difficulties. In 1923, the British company Sudan Plantations sent a committee to Brazil. The committee was called the Montagu Mission and was led by Lord Edwin Samuel and Lord Simon Joseph Fraser, the 14th Lord Lovat of Scotland. Lord Lovat returned home and, impressed by the trip, created the Brazil Plantation Syndicate, which had a goal of investing English capital in the production of cotton in Brazil. In London, he met with Arthur Thomas and invited him to personally coordinate his new business. The company was divided into Paraná Plantation, whose subsidiary was the Land Company of Northern Paraná, which later formed the Improvement Company of Northern Paraná. The complex agreement between the company and the Brazilian government resulted in a grant to sell, finance, and colonize land. In exchange, the company would extend and build a railroad that would connect the region to the rest of the country. Londrina, meaning Little London, was founded in 1929 and was the city where the project began. A total of 63 cities and heritage sites were created by the company. The company's project was ambitious and envisioned the commercialization of 13,150 square kilometers, which is approximately 5,077 square miles. For decades, about 41,800 buyers purchased rural lots. Meanwhile, in Europe, World War II forced England to reduce the investment. At the same time, the Brazilian government was pressuring the nationalization of foreign companies. The Land Company of Northern Paraná was among the list of British companies up for sale. In 1943, the government of Getúlio Vargas, President of Brazil, authorized the negotiation under the condition that the group be required to give the railroad to the government. Although the company had suffered major losses, Mesquita Filho and Gastão Vidigal acquired all of the company's shares. The modern Green City. Pioneers were attracted to the region of Maringá to create a temporary urban center known as Old Maringá. The first group of people living in Old Maringá settled in 1938. Today, the name remains the same. In 1943, the architect and urban planner, Jorge Macedo Vieira, was requested to elaborate the urban plan of Maringá. The project was inspired by the concept of the Garden City of Ebenezer Howard, Green Cities of Tomorrow. large streets, avenues, and plazas were planned accordingly to the topographical features of the region. There was also a desire to preserve green areas and native vegetation. The afforestation project was signed by the landscaper Luis Teixeira Mendes and finalized on May 10, 1947. Currently, there are around 16,000 seeds, divided into 47 species. Altogether, Maringá has in its urban layout a total of 88 avenues, 875 streets, 79 plazas, besides the forests and the tree nursery embellished by about 160,000 trees. The city became politically independent on November 14, 1951. It grew significantly during the 50s and 60s. The region was highly influenced by the Japanese, Italian, Portuguese, Polish, Spanish, German, and Africans, in addition to the indigenous peoples. Maringá presents a great potential for industrial production and services. It is the center of an influential region and the crossroads of important highways and railroads. Moreover, Maringá has a modern airport. Maringá emerged during the period of time where coffee was the most cultivated crop, which was later substituted by the cultivation of wheat, sugarcane, cotton, corn, and soy. Together, these new crops achieved a very high productivity index from the so-called purple soil, considered one of the most fertile soils on the planet. The reason that the soil is called purple soil came from the influence of the Italians. Terra rosa in Italian means red soil in Portuguese, a Brazilian term used to describe someone that lives in the region. Today, Maringá has one of the highest living standards in Brazil, and is also one of the safest cities in the country. A little more than 60 years old, Maringá has a population of over 400,000. It is also the third largest city in the state of Paraná. Maringá excels in its public services, textiles and industries, and several universities. The strategically located city emerged as a major center. Its metropolitan area, which encompasses several cities, has approximately 700,000 inhabitants. The Singing City. The word Inga has its origin in one of Brazil's native languages, Tupi-Guarani. Inga, in Tupi-Guarani, is the name given to a tree called the ingazeiro and its fruit. The ingazeiro is a beautiful and unique tree that blooms several times throughout the year, and they are very common near the rivers and lakes of the region. The region where the ingazeiros grow is also known as Inga. Despite controversies regarding the origins of the name Maringá, the most known account is influenced by music and a love story. Maria do Inga was astonishingly beautiful and enchanted many, including the politician, Rui Carneiro. Tragically, she left, leaving her admirer crushed. Rui Carneiro requested that a friend who was a composer, Gilberto de Carvalho, make a song as a tribute to her and the place where she came from. In 1932, the composers Gilberto de Carvalho and Olegueiro Mariano made a song about this love story called Maringá, Maringá. This song became very successful in the 1930s. Carlos Gallardo did the first interpretation and recording. In 1952, this song was recorded in Spanish and in other rhythmic styles. In the 1950s, it became very successful in several other countries. The populace of Maringá believes that Lady Elizabeth Thomas, the wife of Arthur Thomas, chose the name of the city because of the impression the song made on her. Maringá, because of the song, has obtained the title The Singing City, or in Portuguese, Cidade Canção. Maringá, Maringá. Maringá and sports. Sports is another highlight of the city. Maringá has a large modern athletic complex called the Olympic Village, Vila Olímpica, which is in a great location in the center of the city. The Olympic Village is one of the most modern in southern Brazil, with 10 sports arenas. Part of this is the large Willie Davis Regional Stadium, the gym, Chiconito, and the Velodrome, a space used for training and conditioning of cycling athletes and hosting major cycling competitions. There is a track for athletes and people within the complex. This track has several exercise devices and a large space that welcomes the population. The Maringá Department of Sports is also located in this complex. St. Boniface and St. Cruz Chapels. St. Boniface Farm, located at Gleba Ribeirão Pinguim. Today, Blue Valley Road, Estrada Valle Azul, Lot 1A, was the first lot sold in the city to the German priest Clement Schrader, who arrived in Rolandia in 1938. The priest built his house, a pottery, and St. Boniface Chapel, which was made with trees from the farm and became the first church in Maringá. The priest built his house, a pottery, and St. Boniface Chapel, which was made with trees from the farm and became the first church in Maringá. The chapel was inaugurated on February 12, 1940. Today, the chapel is located at the extension of Dolores Duran Street and has been declared a municipal heritage. The St. Boniface Chapel is a must-see for those who research the local history. There are many stories about the controversial priest who was certainly one of the first pioneers of the city. Clement Schrader came from Alsace-Lorraine, a region in Germany in which business was done during wartime. According to speculations, great sums of money were deposited in bank accounts as a form of payment for the lands abroad. It is said that Schrader had a discussion with the directors of the Land Company of Northern Paraná right after arriving to the region. He believed that the land received had a low value because it was located in the middle of the forest. Today, the land is situated inside the urban perimeter and is virtually priceless. St. Cruz Chapel is another historical chapel located in Old Maringá, the region where the city started. Before its construction on the land donated by the Land Company of Northern Paraná, the locals had gone to St. Boniface Farm, a few miles away from their homes. During rainy days, getting to the farm was almost impossible. Firstly, a cross was built on the corner of Brazil Avenue and Santa Joaquina Vendruna Street in 1945, and just later, St. Cruz Chapel was erected. In 1945, the wooden building was completed. Santa Cruz Chapel was the first church built in the city limits, and belongs today to St. Cruz School. After its restoration in 1991, the chapel was declared a municipal heritage. In order to find St. Boniface and St. Cruz Chapel, simply ask a hotel desk in Maringá. Fim de Picada and the subtropical climate. Whoever goes to Old Maringá will pass through the area properly known as Fim de Picada, a popular expression meaning the end of the road. At the junction of Brazil Avenue and Harry Prochet Avenue, there was a picada at that site, which is a word that describes an area opened in the woods using machetes, and today it is an area that connects Old Maringá to downtown Maringá. The area is still known today as Fim de Picada, and it was a reference for the construction of Brazil Avenue. It is very interesting to see people exploring this place. Seeing Fim de Picada is an opportunity that no one should miss, especially because the Tropic of Capricorn, which delimitates the beginning of the subtropical climate, passes through Fim de Picada. Maringá has a very mild and pleasant subtropical climate. The Cathedral of Maringá, officially known as Catedral Basílica Menor de Nossa Senhora da Glória, is 124 meters high, 407 feet. The cathedral is the tallest religious monument in South America and the 16th highest in the world. The external diameter of the edifice at the base is 50 meters. The monument was constructed from 1959 to 1972. The church has a seating capacity of 3,500 people. A staircase with 466 steps leading to an observation deck provides a panoramic view of the entire city. If you have time, try to walk up the stairs to the lookout. You will have a spectacular view of the city. Because of its grandeur, beauty, and distinctiveness, the cathedral receives many visitors, not only for the purposes of religion. Definitely, this is the postcard of Maringá. The architectural design is from 1958, and the architect, José Augusto Bellucci, who was heavily influenced by the events of his time, had a very odd inspiration for a church. Maringá probably has the only church on the planet that was inspired by a space rocket. The unique inspiration came from the rocket that launched the first satellite, made by the Soviet Union called Sputnik. The rocket orbited the planet in 1957. The news that Sputnik circled the planet every 92 minutes at a speed of 18,000 miles per hour produced a great impact on society at the time, still heavily rural. Interestingly, Bellucci believed that Sputnik would go along with the design of a modern city and a futuristic church. The word Sputnik in Russian means one who accompanies. Two fists, representing the shape of the church, in fact, resemble the shape of the missile. Since its opening, it has been a must-see for all visitors in Maringá. Another interesting fact, the marble cornerstone of the cathedral comes from the excavation of St. Peter's Basilica. The cornerstone was laid on August 15, 1958. The legendary Bandeirantes Hotel and its mysteries. The Bandeirantes Hotel is not among the official tourist attractions of Maringá, but it has certainly a very interesting story that relates with the history of Maringá. Although this hotel is closed today, it is still pure history. The hotel is located just on the opposite side of the cathedral and occupies an entire block of one of the noblest areas of the city. Its creation precedes the construction of the cathedral and the other buildings of the central region, which granted it the title of Grand Hotel while it operated. Analyzing the pictures of the hotel during its construction in the following decades is to analyze the history of Maringá. The Grand Hotel preceded even the asphalted roads of the area. The construction of the hotel was unique in all aspects, and everyone that passed through the city questioned whether it would make sense to have such an enormous hotel in such an insignificant city. Nevertheless, the land company River Paraná was interested in selling the land and needed a suitable hotel to greet their customers. The plans for the Bandeirantes Hotel were designed by the architect José Augusto Bellucci, who selected a modern and sophisticated style inspired by the modern movement. For approximately 3 decades, the hotel was also home of prodigious events and parties. Business, events, parties, and services were non-stop since the foundation of the city. The Grand Hotel Maringá opened on September 22, 1956. It was a landmark for the city and impressed all of those who visited Maringá. The list of distinguished guests included artists, politicians, and businessmen. In the 1970s, the hotel received Princess Michiko and Prince Akito, the future Emperor of Japan. There were 68 enormous rooms. A 6,000 square meter building with 68 rooms already implies luxury and lavishness. The building hosted the famous Blue nightclub, Bota Azul. Had central heat, restaurants, and lounges for meetings and balls. Also, it offered one of the best views of the city. Its reception had architectural elements from the 1950s. For those in love with architecture, a tour around the hotel's area is an unforgettable experience, as well as a trip back in time. In the beginning of the 1990s, new hotels arose around the city, and the Majestic Hotel was no longer the best and became too costly to maintain. Notwithstanding, its title still remains with the history of Maringá, since it does not come from its current state, but from its past. The commander, Jacob Zwecker, the Austrian founder of Bandeirantes Hotel, was a discreet and mysterious person who was known to have the Midas touch, since he used to make great profit from all of his investments. Mr. Zwecker died in 2002. His heirs decided not to sell the property, and in 2004, the building was listed as a historical heritage. Its closing does not influence its meaning on the history of Maringá. Its name is perpetual. Bandeirantes Hotel will always have the title of Grand Hotel of Maringá. There are many speculations concerning the symbol and the official logo of the hotel. Some believe that it represents the Southern Cross. Others believe it represents David's shield, which enlightened the hotel and the city on their first days. The walls of the Bandeirantes Hotel heard and witnessed several events in the first 4 decades of Maringá. For those who believe in ghosts, the legend says that on weekends, spirits or ghosts return to the hotel and are greeted in great style by other familiars and friends who have already left. The ghosts recall the great parties, services, stories, fights, and gossips that have once happened in that place. It is believed that elegant ladies in elegant dresses discreetly flirt with gentlemen dressed in elegant white linen suits, that the ghosts revive the wise and mysterious conversations of the commander, and that, at the end of the night, all dance together in glorious lounge to the sound of a ghostly orchestra. According to the legend, even Maria do Angá returns to dance with her beloved one at the sound of applause and the orchestra, which sings the song Maringá, Maringá. As said by the local stories, all the participants are invited to magically revive a glorious past, where some dance to remember and others dance to forget. Moreover, it is believed that the hotel has secret passages which would lead to places unknown even by the oldest hotel employees. Some superstitious people affirm to have already seen lights and heard noises and antique music echoing in the hotel's walls. Could it be true? Would the ballroom be a door to another dimension? Would the hotel really be inhabited by ghosts? Probably not. But the secrets that have been revealed between those walls are the biggest, the best, and the most well-kept of Maringá. Oh, if only the walls could talk. Naturally, the entire city, including its ghosts, are very interested in the reopening of the nostalgic Grand Hotel Bandeirantes. Parque do Ingá, Inga Park. During the urban planning of the city, the environment was of great concern. The preservation of native woodlands in the region was a priority, inspired greatly by the styles of Ebenezer Howard's Garden Cities in his book, Garden Cities of Tomorrow. 2 reserves were made, symbolizing lungs for the city to breathe. The first lung is Inga Park, Parque do Inga, and the second lung is Bosque 2. Besides these two parks, there is also the tree nursery, Hortofloresta, which is intended to be a nursery for native plant species of the region and plant species of other regions. At first, these reserves were closed to the public, but in 1969 the idea of opening them for visitation became a reality. Amidst the lush vegetation, several paths were paved with cobblestone, and the spring in the center of the park was dammed to form a large pond. In 1971, the park officially opened to the public and became a meeting point for families of Maringá and visiting families. The park has a mini zoo with various species of birds, mammals, and reptiles. In Inga Park, visitors will also find the Imperial Garden, which is a tribute to the Emperor of Japan who visited Maringá in 1978. In 2009, the park was closed for technical reasons. It was reopened for visitation in 2011. It is common for people of Maringá to walk or run around Inga Park. The route is 3 kilometers or 1.8 miles. The view is wonderful because it mixes the green forest with the modernity of a city. Around the park, there are also many devices used for exercise. With a little luck, you might even see the native monkeys that inhabit the park and try to ask for food from the pedestrians. But do not feed them. They are wild animals and can attack while being fed. It is highly recommended to take a stroll through Inga Park. One could never imagine Maringá without thinking of the Japanese community. In addition to being a part of the city, the Japanese were essential for local development. Visiting Maringá is like visiting a little piece of Japan without having to cross the ocean. Maringá is proud to have the 3rd largest population of Japanese in Paraná. Perhaps Maringá has the most organized Japanese population, as well as the most representative for all of Brazil. The Japanese first immigrated to Brazil in 1908. They were attracted by the coffee plantations in São Paulo. Because of the proximity of fertile lands in the north and the northwest of Paraná, which were being cleared, the Japanese moved to these regions, thus making them a part of the history of Maringá. In 1978, ACEMA, the Japanese association in the city, held an event commemorating the 17th anniversary of Japanese immigration to Brazil. Together, on an official visit to Brazil, the Prince of Japan, Akihito, and Princess Machiko attended the event. The ACEMA maintains a strong relationship with the land of the rising sun. There are members of the community that have excellent relationships even with the Japanese royal family. Aiming to promote athletic, cultural, and social activities, ACEMA has a principal goal of preserving and disseminating the traditions, customs, and teachings of the ancient Japanese culture, combined with the desire to contribute to the country that greeted their ancestors with employment, dedication, and love. Another attraction that demonstrates the Japanese influence in Maringá is the Buddhist temple, which opened in 1983. Japanese temples inspired the architecture, with the altar built out of peroba wood, which was joined together to form the temple without using nails. Such a relation with the Japanese Brazilian community resulted in the formation of a strong relationship between Maringá and the city of Kakagawa. For the centennial celebration of Japanese immigration to Brazil, Maringá and its sister city Kakagawa began a cultural exchange of information and experiences to honor the Japanese colony. They came up with an idea to make a park in Maringá, which would be a little piece of Japan. The project became a reality and the park was constructed. It includes a monument that honors the century of Japanese immigration. The park surrounds a cultural center for exhibitions, parties, and cultural activities, a magnificent Japanese garden, a classical restaurant, an orchard of cherry trees, a lake, and a gymnasium to practice martial arts. It is highly recommended that visitors take a walk in this glorious park. Tourism tips. Maringá, thinking ahead of many other cities, has its own tour bus for visitors. The tour bus is another tourist attraction. It is called the Gardener, Jardineira. It is unique and quite comfortable, and its seats resemble seats from the plazas in Maringá. The Jardineira bus has a maximum capacity of 30 people and passes by the major sites in the city. Check the schedule with your local hotel. Maringá has various museums. Among them is the Unicesumar Museum of History of Maringá. The museum has 3 rooms that tell the story in a different way. Your visit will start in the coffee granary in 1949. In the second room of the museum, a house typical of the region in the 1950s takes you back to Maringá's past. The third space is reserved for modern technology. There is a mezzanine for exhibitions, rooms that tell the story of the city by utilizing videos and 3D cinema, which includes a pre-recorded view from a helicopter flying over Maringá. The video is updated regularly and shows the major points of the city. Moreover, the museum is free to enjoy. A guide will accompany you for the entire visit. If you have a group of more than 10 people, it will be mandatory that you schedule an appointment. Consult with your local hotel or travel agent, who can provide you with the phone numbers to schedule a group tour.